This might completely flip the way you see Wesley Snipes. Not just because of one shady moment, but because the deeper you dig, the darker it gets. It all started spiraling on the set of Blade Trinity. Multiple actors and crew claimed Snipes straight up refused to talk to anyone. He isolated himself in his trailer for hours, and it didn't stop there. Things allegedly got physical when Snipes tried to strangle the director. Yeah, you read that right. Then came the legal drama, lawsuits, fines, arrest, and eventually federal prison for tax evasion. And when he got out, Hollywood had closed the door. The roles were gone. The spotlight, gone. Black Hollywood had already moved forward without him. People only saw the cool, tough action hero version of Wesley, but the real story, it's way messier. Once you see the full picture, there's no going back. Now here's the part that shook everyone. Back in the mid-90s, Halle Berry began speaking out about a violent, abusive relationship that left her with permanent damage. She never dropped a name, but the whispers in the industry, they pointed straight at Wesley Snipes. In a 1996 People magazine interview, Halle revealed a terrifying moment when a partner hit her so hard she lost 80% of the hearing in her left ear. She said the abuse was the final blow in a relationship already filled with manipulation and emotional harm. Her words? "I left so fast there were skid marks." This ain't just gossip, it's a reality check. If you're into the real stories behind fame, hit that subscribe button for Fame Feast. More untold truths are coming, and they're wild. She left that relationship immediately after the violent attack. No hesitation. But back then, she didn't name names. She just said it was a well-known Hollywood figure, and that sent rumors flying in every direction. Then out of nowhere, singer Christopher Williams, who briefly dated Halle, stepped in to clear his name and put someone else on blast. In 2004, he told Your Web, "The stuff they wrote about me and Halle was totally false. Wesley Snipes busted her eardrum, not me." That statement hit like a bomb. Williams didn't hold back. He named names. With that one quote, all eyes turned to Snipes. At the time, he and Halle had worked together on just one film, Spike Lee's 1991 drama Jungle Fever. That was their only project. And after filming wrapped, crickets. No more collabs, no more photo ops, nothing. It all ended abruptly, and people couldn't help but wonder if something had gone seriously wrong behind the scenes. Insiders started talking. One production assistant reportedly claimed Halle was often seen crying on set, but nobody confirmed what exactly was going on. Still, the tension was clear. The timing was suspicious. The whispers only got louder. And just when the rumors were starting to cool off, another one of Halle's exes stepped in, David Justice, former MLB star. For years, people had wrongly pointed the finger at him as the one responsible for Halle's hearing loss. But in 2015, David had enough. He jumped on Twitter to set the record straight once and for all. Reading the latest Halle Berry reports, "It wasn't me who hit Halle causing the ear damage. Halle has never said that." That tweet shook things up, and it pushed the spotlight right back onto Snipes. "I hit her." That was the vibe people got when David Justice followed up his tweets by directly referencing WS, a clear jab at Wesley Snipes. He didn't say it lightly either. He later told Daily Mail that Halle Berry's silence over the years had let false rumors hang over his name like a cloud, and he wasn't going to let his kids grow up reading lies online. Justice made it crystal clear he never laid a hand on Halle or any woman. And while she never directly accused him, he felt that her refusal to speak up in his defense left his reputation in ruins. It wasn't just public image. It was his legacy, his truth, his family name. Backing him up, none other than Eric Benet, Halle's ex-husband from 2001 to 2004. He stood by Justice, publicly supporting his claim and adding major weight to his defense. That kind of backup isn't small. It raised even more questions about who was really responsible for the damage. Then in 2011, Halle took the mic at a domestic violence benefit in New York City and gave one of her most raw speeches yet. She opened up about how her own father's abuse toward her mother had left a deep scar, one that affected her sense of worth and the relationships she chose later in life. She shared a horrifying memory. Blood splattered across her apartment ceiling, and the hearing in one ear, gone. Just like that. That moment matched the same injury she had revealed in the past, but still, she didn't say who did it. And to this day, Wesley Snipes has stayed silent. No denial, no comment, not a word. There's no official confirmation. But when you piece it all together, the timeline, the consistency in Halle's stories, the statements from her exes, and Snipes' total silence, this rumor hasn't just survived. It stayed loud for over 20 years. By the time those old rumors about Halle Berry came storming back in the early 2000s, Wesley Snipes was already catching serious heat for how he acted behind the scenes. The tipping point? Blade, Trinity in 2004, a film that didn't just wrap a trilogy, it practically wrapped Snipes' mainstream career. Snipes wasn't just the face of Blade, he was also credited as a producer, which meant he had serious pull when it came to casting and creative choices. But by the time the third movie was cooking, everything started breaking down. Sources say Snipes hated the script, hated the director, and definitely wasn't feeling all the buzz around his co-stars, especially Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel, who were clearly rising stars. That jealousy reportedly turned ugly. People on set claimed Snipes wasn't just irritated, he was hostile. Comedian and actor Patton Oswalt, who had a small role in the film, didn't hold back years later. In a 2012 interview with AV Club, Oswalt straight up said that Snipes refused to leave his trailer for hours, didn't talk to people directly, just wrote little notes on Post-its and signed them from Blade. You read that right, Post-it notes, like some silent diva move. But the wildest part? Oswalt claimed Snipes even tried to strangle the film's director, David S. Goyer, during a heated argument. Snipes later denied ever laying hands on him, but the internet didn't forget. The rumors were out and they stuck hard. No leaked footage ever showed up, but accounts from crew members, writers, and reporters all backed up the same chaotic story. The once feared action star was now being talked about for all the wrong reasons. Stick with Fame Feast and smash that subscribe. We're not done with this Hollywood meltdown just yet. Snipes wasn't just tough to work with, he was becoming unpredictable, and it didn't stop with moody silence or temper tantrums. According to an on-set report from Spin magazine, Snipes started refusing to even do scenes unless the camera was locked on him like he was the sun in every shot. A journalist who witnessed the madness said Snipes would flat out demand a stand-in anytime he wasn't front and center. So while other actors delivered lines full of emotion, they were often talking to a stand-in instead of the real guy. That's next-level ego, but the crew said it got even messier. One insider claims Snipes refused to even say his co-stars' names. He allegedly called Ryan Reynolds that cracker and Jessica Biel that girl. Not Ryan, not Jessica, just cold, dismissive labels. Later, Snipes tried to defend himself in an Entertainment Weekly interview. He said all the drama was blown out of proportion and worse, that it was racially motivated. According to Snipes, the studio and director tried to ice him out on purpose. He said they brought in a white-heavy cast and crew and started shifting the spotlight to younger, whiter faces. And then came the money talk. Snipes claimed he was still owed $3 million and that the studio broke parts of his contract. That beef didn't just stay in interviews, he sued them. After Blade, Trinity dropped, Snipes took New Line Cinema and director David S. Goyer to court, accusing them of locking him out of casting decisions and shrinking his role to boost others. Oh, and he wasn't done. He also claimed the studio didn't help him get a Canadian tax exemption, even though the whole shoot happened in Canada. But here's the twist. By that time, the public wasn't really writing for him anymore. Sympathy was running dry, and his once bulletproof image had already taken major hits. By this point, Wesley Snipes' name was dragging. His rep had taken major damage, and the media ran wild with it. The narrative was locked in. Snipes had gone from action legend to too difficult to work with. The wild stories from the Blade set kept popping up in interviews, documentaries, and behind-the-scenes breakdowns as prime examples of how he'd become straight-up unmanageable. Studios weren't about to gamble on him anymore. Big roles? Gone. A-list scripts? Not even crossing his desk. One by one, the doors slammed shut. And as for the films he did land, most of them got sent straight to DVD. No premieres, no red carpets, no hype. He went from the face of a billion-dollar franchise to a PR disaster, and fast. Between the fallout from Halle Berry's situation and the crash and burn of Blade Trinity, his Hollywood clout was in freefall. But just when you thought it couldn't get messier, it did. His personal life was unraveling behind the scenes, and it was about to spill into the headlines. One of the earliest and most chaotic moments came in April 1994. Snipes ended up leading Florida Highway Patrol on a wild high-speed chase. He was on a motorcycle, reportedly hitting 120 miles per hour after refusing to pull over for what was supposed to be a routine traffic stop. And it gets even sketchier. During the chase, officers claimed Snipes tossed a bag off his bike, a bag they later suspected had marijuana inside. But with no fingerprints on it, no drug charges stuck, he only got slapped with a reckless driving charge. Still, the story made national headlines. and it didn't help his image one bit. People started thinking Snipes believed the rules didn't apply to him, like he was untouchable, above the law. But one of the most humiliating moments in Wesley Snipes' life didn't happen during a movie meltdown or courtroom drama. It happened on the streets of LA in 1991. He was filming The Water Dance at the time and had borrowed a Ford Mustang that was leased by the production team. But here's where it all went sideways. Someone on set, clueless that Snipes had permission to take the car, reported it stolen. No heads up, no check-in, just a straight-up call to the cops. That same night, LAPD tracked the vehicle down and spotted Snipes driving it near downtown Los Angeles. And what happened next? Total chaos. Officers rolled up hard. They forced Snipes out of the car, made him lie face down on the pavement, arms and legs stretched, with a gun pointed right at his head. In the middle of the night, on a public street, he was cuffed, thrown in a squad car, and taken into custody with zero explanation. According to Snipes, he kept asking what he'd done wrong, but all he got in return was dead silence. He sat in a cell for 2 hours before being released. No charges, nothing, just a brutal mistake that turned into a public embarrassment. Snipes didn't stay quiet about it. He held a press conference shortly after, flanked by fellow actors Blair Underwood, T.K. Carter, and Reginald T. Dorsey. Together, they put the LAPD on blast, calling out the excessive force, the humiliation, and what they believed was straight-up racial profiling, and back then, Black Hollywood stood with him. Tensions in LA were already on edge after the Rodney King beating, and many saw Snipes' arrest as another case of a black man being treated like a criminal, for nothing. Just months before the LAPD takedown, Wesley Snipes still had support from the industry. But as time went on, that support started to fade. The stories weren't slowing down. They were getting worse. More whispers started surfacing about his temper, erratic behavior, and a growing habit that had people side-eyeing his every move. By the time Blade Trinity was in production a decade later, multiple crew members claimed Snipes barely came out of his trailer, and when he did, he was often high. They said he spent most of his days inside, puffing on weed while scenes waited to be shot. These behind-the-scenes reports lined up with long-standing talk that drugs were becoming part of his routine, even while working. It wasn't just off-the-clock habits anymore. Folks started wondering if the action star known for his intense focus was spiraling behind closed doors. Then came another headline-snatching moment. In 2005, Snipes stirred up an international mess. He was declared an undesirable person by the South African government after officials caught him entering the country using a forged South African passport. That wasn't just shady. It turned into a full-blown diplomatic embarrassment, and people couldn't help but ask, what's really going on with Wesley? Now, any one of these moments, the Florida high-speed chase, the wrongful LAPD arrest, the fake passport fiasco, could have been cleaned up if they'd stood alone, but stacked together, they painted a wild picture of a man losing grip. For someone once respected for his discipline and powerful screen presence, the reality behind the scenes was looking way different. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get more out of control, the biggest hammer dropped. Because when the U.S. government got involved, everything changed. In 2008, Wesley Snipes was convicted on 3 misdemeanor counts for failing to file federal tax returns from 1999. That moment, it marked the peak of his downfall. By 2001, the U.S. government dropped a bomb. Wesley Snipes owed over $7 million in unpaid taxes. That's not a typo. $7 million. For a man who had once been one of the highest-paid black actors in the game, it was a jaw-dropping collapse. From blockbuster royalty to courtroom drama, the fall was real, but this wasn't some random audit. Investigators had been watching Snipes for years. Why? Because he got caught up with a fringe anti-tax group, one of those movements that swears federal taxes are illegal and optional. Yeah, that kind of crowd. Court documents revealed Snipes had taken advice from a known tax protester and worked with a shady accounting firm that was deep in this so-called tax-resistant scene. Instead of filing legit tax returns, Snipes submitted bogus refund claims and stopped filing altogether. He said he didn't owe taxes because he was a non-resident alien. Mind you, he was born in Florida. During the trial, prosecutors didn't pull punches. They said Snipes wasn't just careless. He was part of an actual conspiracy to defraud the government. The charges were heavy. Felony counts for conspiracy and tax fraud. But in a twist, he beat those major felonies. Still, he couldn't dodge everything. The court found him guilty of willfully failing to file his taxes. That alone carried serious time. And the government? Oh, they made an example out of him. Snipes wasn't just a celeb with unpaid bills. He was now the face of a rising anti-tax movement, a movement the feds were done tolerating. They wanted to make sure everybody watching got the message. No matter how rich or famous you are, the IRS will come for you. Snipes fought back hard in court, but the damage was already done. Subscribe to Fame Feast now, cause what happened next sealed his fate in a way nobody saw coming. Wesley Snipes didn't go down without a fight. He pulled together a high-powered legal team and argued that he'd been misled by shady advisors. He claimed he had already paid millions in back taxes and said the whole case was blown out of proportion just because he was famous. But none of that made a difference in court. The judge hit him with the maximum sentence for those misdemeanor charges. 3 years in federal prison, no shortcuts, no special treatment. He was shipped off to McKean Federal Correctional Institution in Pennsylvania, where he served 28 months before being released in 2013 under community confinement in New York. And just like that, his career momentum, gone. By the time he was sentenced, Snipes hadn't headlined a box office hit in years, but prison sealed the deal. When he came back, studios weren't picking up the phone. The doors to big-budget Hollywood were locked tight. Casting agents saw him as a liability, not a star. This wasn't just about taxes anymore. For a lot of people watching, it was about ego, arrogance, the idea that he thought he could outsmart the system. Wesley Snipes, once the face of the Blade franchise, a symbol of black excellence in action films, was now a cautionary tale, a real-life reminder of what happens when you think you're untouchable. And if that wasn't enough, one of the lowest moments of his life kept coming back up. It was that 1991 traffic stop in LA, when officers forced him to the ground, face down on the pavement, arms stretched, a gun pointed at his head. He was handcuffed, detained, and left asking, "What did I do?" And no one answered. 2 hours later, he was released, no charges, just a headline. That moment stuck with him, but so did everything that came after. The stardom, the fall, the prison sentence, the silence from Hollywood. It all started with a simple misunderstanding, but it blew up into a major public spectacle. After that brutal LAPD takedown in 1991, Wesley Snipes didn't stay quiet. He held a press conference to speak out, flanked by fellow actors Blair Underwood, T.K. Carter, and Reginald T. Dorsey. Together, they slammed the LAPD's use of excessive force and called out racial profiling. And back then, Black Hollywood had his back, big time. Many believed Snipes had been targeted because of his race, especially with tensions boiling over in LA after the Rodney King beating just months earlier. That press conference became a moment of unity, one that showed Snipes wasn't just a movie star, but someone who could use his voice. But that wave of support didn't last. In the years that followed, Snipes' own behavior started chipping away at the goodwill he once had. The stories kept stacking up. More about his short fuse, erratic on-set behavior, and growing drug use. By the time Blade Trinity was filming nearly a decade later, multiple crew members claimed he rarely came out of his trailer. And when he did, he was usually high. They said he spent hours alone, smoking marijuana and avoiding everyone, and those whispers weren't new. They matched the rumors that drug use had become part of his regular routine, even while filming. Then in 2005, it got even messier. Snipes landed in international headlines after South African officials declared him an undesirable person. Why? Because he was caught entering the country using a forged South African passport. That wasn't just a legal issue. It turned into a diplomatic embarrassment. The world was now watching his personal spiral unfold in real time. Any one of these events, the Florida motorcycle chase, the LAPD arrest, the fake passport, could have been brushed off if they happened alone. But altogether, they painted a clear picture. Wesley Snipes wasn't just a troubled actor anymore. He was a man who looked completely out of control. Wesley Snipes was once praised for his sharp discipline, intense work ethic, and magnetic screen presence, but the man who played fearless warriors and slick heroes on screen was starting to look very different in real life, and believe it or not, none of the wild scandals that came before could match what happened next. Because once the U.S. government stepped in, everything changed. Snipes' downfall hit rock bottom in 2008 when he was convicted on 3 misdemeanor counts for willfully failing to file federal tax returns from 1999 to 2001. The numbers were staggering. The government said he owed more than $7 million in unpaid taxes just from those years alone. This wasn't just any actor. This was a man who had once been one of the highest paid black stars in Hollywood. So seeing him in court instead of on the big screen, it was a shocking collapse. And this case didn't come out of thin air. Investigators had been watching him closely for years, especially after he got involved with a fringe anti-tax group. Yeah, the kind that claims you don't have to pay federal income tax if you follow some made-up legal loopholes. According to court documents, Snipes took bad advice from a known tax protester and a highly questionable accounting firm. He started filing fake refund claims and straight up refused to file legitimate returns. His argument that he was a non-resident alien and didn't owe taxes, even though he was born in Florida. Prosecutors didn't hold back. They told the jury this wasn't just carelessness, this was calculated. They said Snipes was actively part of a conspiracy to defraud the U.S. government. He was slapped with felony charges for conspiracy and fraud. He beat the felony rap, but it wasn't a win. The court still found him guilty of willfully not filing his taxes, a serious charge that came with serious heat. And just like that, Wesley Snipes became the cautionary tale no one expected. Subscribe to Fame Feast, 'cause the truth behind fame never stays buried.